Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Debbie. I am the Cancer Support Agent with CCS. It's Thursday, the 24th of June, and I am joined by two lovely guests today. I'm joined firstly with Harriet Nichols, who is the Advanced Care Planning Lead for the Somerset Foundation Trust, and also Sandy Haskins, who is the Volunteer Services Coordinator for Marie Curie in Somerset. So welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. So we're going to be talking a little bit about advanced care planning. So if I could pass over to you, Harriet, tell us a little bit about your role and the part you play within this.
Thanks, Debbie. So I'm Advanced Care Planning Lead for Somerset Foundation Trust. I'm a nurse by background, and my role is very sort of many and varied in terms of what I actually do. So I see patients directly, I work in the community and in the hospital. So I'll go and see people at home if I've had a referral through for them. And the referrals that will come to me are around advanced care planning, which is, it's really future planning. So from a more clinical perspective and a nursing perspective, that might be around medical forms that need to be filled in and plans that need to be made for future treatments and things like that. But in a more holistic sense, advanced care planning is just about who a person is, what's important to them, etc. So I'll just tell you a bit more about advanced care planning. So it's really, it's about thinking about the future. It's something any of us can do at any time. It's not age specific. It's not if you have a condition necessarily, although these things might be triggers to think about it, but we can all do it. And we make plans for everything. So you might plan for a holiday, you might plan for a birth. We plan what might happen to our children if something happened to us. We write wills. These are all just putting plans in place. So advanced care planning, future planning is just in that same kind of category of thinking ahead, what's important, who am I, what needs to happen, that kind of thing. So you might want to record that somewhere. You might want people to know these things. If you've got specific wishes and wants and priorities, then talking about it is the most important thing. It's sharing the information. People can't help you if they haven't been able to be aware of those things. Sometimes with advanced care planning, it's thinking about who would speak on your behalf if you weren't able to. For any reason, you might be incapacitated, you might just be very poorly, you might just be being treated for something and not in a position where you can tell people what you want or what was important, what care you'd like, where you want to be, etc. So sometimes it's just the most important bit is sharing that information with someone who can speak on your behalf, and facilitating that conversation is something that I would do in my role. You can look at more sort of formal ways of doing that, like having a lasting power of attorney. But sometimes it really is just having that conversation with those around you, those that are important to you, those that are in your life, be it family, friends, neighbours, whoever's important in that respect. Or if you are under any treatment with healthcare, that your care team know those things.
Can you write that yourself, Harriet, or does that need to be done in a legal format at all? So it's something literally you can just write down yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. There's various aspects to it, and absolutely the conversation itself you can write. You can put that in any form you want to, in any format you want to. There are lots of things online you can use, different tools. But the most important thing is that somebody knows that you've done that and where it is, because otherwise, again, it's a bit of a message in a bottle. It's just there. Sure. So talking about it is the vital key to all of that. But yes, and then the legal aspects come into it in different ways. So a lasting power of attorney, when you would make somebody legally able to speak for you in health and welfare or in finance, that's a legal document that you would process. Advanced decisions to refuse treatment, so they're very specific medical things. They are legally binding. But the whole wishes and wants and conversation, that's just something you could do. And you can do it with your family. You can make it a sort of shared thing, and you can do it together so that it's not just one person in that group doing it. You might do it with your children and they tell you and you tell them. Because anything can happen, that we know, yes, certainly in recent times.
Yeah, sure.
And it's about your legacy as well. It's letting people know who you are and telling them things you might want to say, what you've done, where you've been, what makes you you, and having that voice. So if something did happen to you, there's a bit of legacy for people that do love you, that they can look upon that and remember you and remember those specific things that you want them to know about. So
I'm
it's sorry.
I was going to say, I'm guessing it's, it's a really important conversation, isn't it? Really important conversation, but actually it only needs to be happened once. You just have to have that conversation with your loved ones. And I'm guessing writing it down is a really good idea, because if you have a conversation, I've spoken with my children and they know what I want, but actually I haven't written it down anywhere. And are they going to remember, at that time when they really need to remember, are they going to remember what mum said she wanted to happen? So actually writing it down is a really, really good way to make sure that everyone knows exactly what it is that you prefer.
Yeah, absolutely, Debbie. That's key, because it can be changed. You can change what you've written down, but if you've done it once, then as you say, you've planned it and parked it, so it's done. Like any other piece of planning, you can put it away in the drawer, going, that's off my mind now. That they know, that can be dealt with. Let's get on with living well.
Like you say, it could be changed at any time as well. So if you suddenly have a change of heart or circumstances change, you think, oh, actually, I want that done differently, then you can change it. Brilliant.
Yeah, and things do change. And I think if younger people are doing this, which they are now, I've been reading more and more about this because of the pandemic. It's really triggered younger people to think about their priorities, their wants and wishes, what makes them them, and things are likely to change. And therefore, just knowing that you can is reassuring. It doesn't matter what I write today. If something changes, I can change it. But at least there's something in place that is me here and now.
Yeah.
So that bit's really important.
I'm guessing also it's never too early to have these conversations. We kind of we always think of when we're elderly or we're not well, but actually these are conversations we should be having with our children, or everyone should be having these conversations, because exactly as you say, you just never know, do you? And I've, as I said, I've had conversations with my children, not just about me, but also about them, what they would like. And I think it's very different for the younger generation. They have a lot of digital legacy. What do they want? Do they want me to see what's on their Facebook account? Do they want me to have access to their Instagram? Are there things on there that actually they don't want mum to see? So these are really important conversations that we should be having, so that the children can express their wishes. I mean, I call them children, they're all adults now, but they can express their wishes as to what it is they want people to see.
That's it. It's really important, and you've touched on it brilliantly. It's personalized, and it's very individual as to what people would want other people to know. And with the digital side of things, of course, they store so many memories on there, and photographs and videos, and those might be really important that they'd want to share. So you can appoint a digital executor in the same way that you can appoint an executor to your will. So you can have your digital legacy looked after as well. So there's all these different aspects that you can look into. But the most important thing is starting the conversation, talking about it with somebody, normalizing it for all of us. And as you say, if you can get something written down, brilliant.
So how do we start that conversation? Is that over to you, Sandy?
I was going to say, so one of the aspects of my role is project work, and I've been working really closely with Marie Curie over the last few months. We've instigated this brilliant project, which I will just hand over to Sandy to tell us all about.
Thank you. Yeah, so as Harriet says, yes, we're working with the NHS basically, and work very closely with Harriet. So we in Marie Curie, we're obviously an end-of-life charity. And my role in Marie Curie is to look after our volunteers in the Somerset area. So we not only have this project, but we have our Marie Curie Helper Service. And these are our volunteers that go into people's homes and provide some companionship and a little bit of practical support when they've got a terminal diagnosis, but they're within the sort of the last 12 months of their lives. I also manage the service for Musgrove Park Companions, and these are our volunteers that are trained to go alongside people who are in their last days and hours of their lives, and that gives a bit of respite to the family. But it's also, sometimes these people don't have any family or any close friends. They've got nobody. And sometimes they do actually die while our companions are there. And many times the companions have said to me, it's such a privilege to be able to do this. So we've got that service. We've also got our telephone bereavement support service, which we set up, expanded upon for the pandemic. And there our volunteers are trained to provide bereavement support obviously over the telephone, but we also work on a Somerset Bereavement Support Service project, which has been commissioned, and we work in partnership with Mind in Somerset. So we can also then, if someone wants further support other than a listening service that our volunteers are trained to provide, we can refer on to Mind for 6 bereavement counselling sessions, which I think is fantastic, and it's working really, really well. And I do know that we don't have that same service in other areas of the country. But now on to our exciting topic of advanced care planning. So this is where, like I say, we're working with Harriet and other people within the NHS in Somerset. And we have our trained Marie Curie volunteers to have these advanced care planning conversations with people. Currently, it's virtual due to the fact, obviously, with restrictions of COVID, we're not currently doing face-to-face visits, but I'm sure this will change very, very soon. So the ideal is that our trained volunteers will then go into people's homes, and then they will have these conversations with them. They will follow a bit of a framework, if you like, but that's just a guide. It's very much around what that person wants to talk about, but there isn't a bit of a framework there just to aid them. And then once the person that they're actually doing the advanced care plan for is happy with that plan, then they can actually obviously have a copy themselves. We share with the GP, but the exciting part of this project is also that we can actually upload it to our NHS system so that everybody in their care further down the line, when they can't actually speak for themselves, will know of their wishes and preferences for their care. Obviously, things happen, and it's not necessarily so that their wishes can be carried out 100% because of maybe other medical reasons, but actually, everybody is aware of that. So the process is for this is you can self-refer, and I know that the numbers for referral will come up on the screens. So you can self-refer if you're in the sort of Somerset area. Currently, we're looking at Taunton and West Somerset, but we will be expanding it further later on. So you can self-refer, but you can also be referred in by a healthcare professional. And what we're finding is that people that are referred in to us and the ones that are self-referring, when we speak to them, they are so appreciative of having the opportunity to talk to someone who's also not involved in the family, not involved in their care, where they can be totally open and honest and have the conversations in the safe environment of their own homes. And, it gives them chance to talk about some of their worries and some of the things that they would like put in place. And I know some of the feedback that we have received recently is that, the person said, well, this service is just so amazing because now it's put my mind at rest and now I can get on. I've put this in place and I can get on with my life, which I think is just so brilliant. So it's not about, the fact that you're ill. Like you said, Debbie, we should all be doing it when we are well, putting the plans in place, having these conversations. And they can be quite difficult because it's an emotive subject. And, obviously our culture in Britain is we don't talk about death and dying. We don't talk about these things and it's uncomfortable. But it is an opportunity to do that. Talk to your family, talk to your friends, put it all in place, and then forget it and go on a lovely holiday or whatever you want to do on your bucket list, But you know that that's in place and you can go back and revisit it and change it at any time. So it's not set in stone, but it's a really lovely way of actually planning for your future, as Harriet has said. So I think, it's a really lovely way to look at it in that aspect, really. So, but yeah, it is a privilege. Marie Curie, we're so excited to be working on this project, and it's just supporting people to get things in place so that they can then go on and enjoy their lives.
Yeah, I'm guessing also, just picking up on a point you made, sometimes it's easier to talk to, as it were, a stranger, isn't it, than having those conversations with family members. So it's a fantastic service, isn't it, really, that you provide for people. And as you say, it must feel a very safe environment to offer that service to people so they can have those conversations.
Yeah, it is. It is. And we have found, sort of research has shown and the feedback has shown that these conversations, it's not the right place to have them in a medical environment. If somebody's in hospital, that is not the right place, because also there is a feeling that, if someone looking after you says, oh, I'd like you to do this, you feel, yes, thank you, yes, I'd better do it, because this could have an impact on my care. So it's about removing yourself from that environment in the comfort of your own homes and talking to somebody who's not involved in your care, so you can be totally honest. And we've also found this with our bereavement support volunteers, and a lot of the feedback we get is, oh, it's so lovely to talk to someone that is not involved in any way with my family or friends or me, totally independent, where I can be myself. I don't have to be strong for someone else. I can actually say what I really feel. So, and what's worrying me. So yeah, you're right, Debbie. It is. It's really important, I think, to have that sort of safety and secure environment.
Yeah, I mean, on a personal level, and I've said this before, is my dad was fantastic with things like this, and he had written everything down. And at the time when I most needed it, because I was grieving, I
Yeah.
actually didn't have to make any decisions. All the decisions had been made because he had written everything down of exactly what he wanted, how he wanted it. So it was really comforting at the time because we were fulfilling his wishes still, even though he still wasn't here. I still knew that we were fulfilling his wishes, and it took the decision making away from me, which was, at a very difficult time. You don't want to be making those sorts of decisions. And there also is that conflict as well of my idea of what dad would have wanted probably was very different from my siblings' idea of what dad would have wanted. And I think that could cause a few issues and a bit of friction at a time when actually that's not needed. When you're grieving for someone, or if someone's really poorly, you don't want to be having friction between family members. If it's written down, you know exactly what it is that you need to be doing for that person, and you're continuing their wishes and caring for them in that way right to the very, very end. So I think it's really, really important that we all think about it and do it, really.
Yeah, it is. And we have found this, the feedback when we speak to people that are bereaved, when there aren't plans in place, they're really concerned is this what dad would have liked? Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Am I listening to what my siblings want more so? Because I don't think dad would have wanted this. He wouldn't want to be buried. He wanted to be cremated. But actually, all those sort of things, and it does take the pressure off. And actually, it is a bit of a legacy, so you do feel that you're doing what your loved one would have wanted. So having a plan like this in place is absolutely brilliant. And you are right, when we ask questions about, so what is it you like? And also, what don't you like? Because times are when you go onto the wards and our companions go on and there's music playing in the background, and it could be something like heavy metal. And we think, does that person really like heavy metal? Do they? Or would they prefer classical or no music? So it's around having that written down so that when you do go in for care later on, when you can't speak for yourself, actually it's all there. It says this person does not like music playing, something like that, or would like sport on in the background or something, so that we know it's comforting to them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and Harriet picked up on the point that with recent times, we're all thinking about this so much more, I think, now, because you just don't know. We were all 18 months ago happily carrying on in our lives, and then suddenly, wham, everything has just really, really changed. I think people's focus has changed, and the way we look at life in itself has changed. It certainly has for me. A lot of priorities that I thought were really important previously, actually they're not. The important things are my family, my loved ones around me, and spending time together. So I think what I'm trying to say is I think people's focus has changed. We look at things differently. So just to recap then, so to refer to your service, Sandy, you can self-refer, or does it have to come through a GP or a medical professional?
No, you can self-refer to the service.
And that's just by ringing the telephone number that we're displaying?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. I've got a quick picture that I can put up, she says. She'll try. There we go. And that has got the telephone number on there. I can move it around a little bit so we can see it. So anyone that wants to call can ring the 0800 304 7412. That's just for Somerset area, is it, Sandy?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And that is on the screen. It's been put in the comments as well, so I can take that off now because we want to see our lovely faces rather than that horrible picture there. Well, it's not a horrible picture; it's a lovely picture, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Anything else that we can chat about really with regards to Marie Curie and advanced care planning? As I said, I mean, I guess it's, you know, it's never too early to make the decisions. How do you start that conversation though? I mean, how, yeah, with your family, how do you broach it?
I think it depends on the family, and it depends on how well you know people. For me, as a professional talking to somebody and starting the conversation, I really would always start with something along the lines of what's important to you, because everything leads on from that. That's what's at the center of this work, of this conversation, of the plan that's going to be put in place. It's keeping it focused back and back always to what's important to that person. I think when it comes to your family, it's often triggered by something that you might have seen something on the television or heard something on the radio. Somebody famous might have died, or there might be something on a television program you're watching. There's a funeral, or just down to music. You know, you'll often hear people saying, I don't mean this funnily, people do say, oh, I'd have that one played at my funeral. And then that just stimulates a conversation really quickly and easily and very naturally into oh, what else would be important to you about that? What else would you do? Would you be buried or cremated? Would you want what ceremony would you want? Would you have a party? And things like that. And that just, as I say, stimulates and then leads on to, actually, in all seriousness, is there anything we need to know that we should make sure we do if something did happen, or if you weren't able to tell us what you want? So it really depends on the situation. But I think if it's ever uncomfortable and it's not being triggered by something lovely and easy like that, then just knowing or asking what's important to that person, because that's what it's all about. And medically, it just also means you're not in the wrong place for care. If it's really important to somebody to be at home.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I mean, we're not. That's no fault. Sorry, me interrupting you. I was just going to say, it's not just about come the end. You know, what if we become really poorly? What if I become really ill and I can't express my wishes? Do people that care about me, do they know what I would like to happen to me, or where I'd like to go, whether I want to go into a home, or whether I'd like to be cared at home, or you know, they can fly me across to somewhere nice and warm and hot and sunny to see my last few days out. You know, those sort of things. You know, it's important that people know, isn't it?
It definitely is. It definitely is. It's important for you as a person, but it's important for them, as Sandy was saying about the legacy around that person being your loved one, and did we do the right thing? So when you're talking about end of life care, it's really important to know those things, or even to know that some people will say, you need to know that I don't mind. You do whatever is right for you because I won't be here. But even hearing that and knowing that is as important, because then it won't raise those issues, as you say, Debbie, about have I done the right thing? Is there a conflict between me and my family about what we should do?
Because it's a huge pressure, isn't it? It's a huge pressure to make those sort of decisions. That's you know, what I found. And although Dad made it very easy, there was still a point where I was having to make, or we were having to make decisions that he hadn't thought about, he hadn't put in his plan. And there is a huge amount of guilt in a way. Did I do enough? Did I do the right thing? Would he have wanted it this way? So yeah, and I think anything you can do to make things easier for your family and loved ones around you, because it's such a difficult time for them, such a difficult time. You know, that it's a tragic time, and the last thing you really want to be doing is having to make decisions about whether they're buried, whether they're cremated, or whatever. So it's really, really important that we start having those conversations. And again, Harriet, we're not very good at having these sort of conversations, are we? We just
it's a cultural shift. It's a cultural shift, and we do need to normalize it, because it's the one thing we've all got in common for sure. So if we just talk about it, because that's going to happen at some point, you're relieving so much on your whole personal system, your people around you, the system that you're going into, and if you can't write it all down, at least appointing somebody, either formally or informally, that would speak on your behalf, and writing that down, but making sure that that person knows what to say on your behalf as well. So it's not just saying, if something happened to me, talk to my husband. Does your husband know what you want? You need to make sure he's informed as well. So it's a whole kind of network of things you can do, but it just comes down to having a voice regardless.
And could you, I suppose, with today's sort of technology, you could, especially for some of the younger generation, you could video yourself. You know, you could sit there and video a message, you know, and talk as we're talking now. Just talk about what you want to do, what you'd like to happen. If you feel that you can't write it down, then you could just film yourself, like some of the youngsters do. On their TikTok,
absolutely.
Or whatever it is they're doing these days.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. And there are so many resources online that they can use to do that. So I think that's probably, as you say, something younger people will want to do because they're much more comfortable in doing that. I think for some of us, it's a bit more like, well, I'll get the pen and paper out, don't worry.
Yeah, but and just making sure people know where that is, you know, where that video is, if should anything happen, obviously knowing how to access that video so that they can, you know, watch it back. Exactly.
But it's not just taking it back a level. It's not. We need to normalize this, and we need to normalize talking about death and knowing that it happens and knowing what to do under those circumstances. But this is advanced care planning comes into play beyond that as well. It's just about, if you are poorly, do we know what to do? If you're too poorly to say what you want at that moment, what do we do, and what do we know, and what's important? I had a lady once who the most important thing for her, for people to know, was because she was not going to be able to talk for herself. She knew she wasn't, it was preempted that she wouldn't be able to talk through her condition. She said, please just make sure nobody strokes my hair. I hate it. It makes me shudder. And I thought that's such an important thing, because it's so easy. It's a very tender bit of compassionate thing that people do, isn't it? You tend to want to touch somebody. And she would be well aware of it. She just wouldn't be able to say, don't do that. So it's as little as that.
Yeah. Actually, that reminds me of my mother-in-law when she was very poorly. She said, I hate the way they brush your hair and they just brush it all back, all the fringe, they brush it all back. And that was my job, was at any point her hair was brushed back like that, I was to get a brush and put the fringe back in. And actually I did have to do it, because when she, you know, she was very ill come the end, and the nurses, bless them, were looking after her nicely, but did just brush her hair all back. So I made sure that her fringe was all done and in place for her. So
for some of us, it's the little things.
It is, isn't it? And we plan. I mean, we plan for everything else, don't we? When you think about it, you know, you say we plan for holidays. If we're going to have a baby, we well plan that in advance. You know, the huge life events. We have our birth plan. We know exactly what we're going to do. We have our bag ready. You know, it's all
baby
there.
shower.
Exactly. But we don't actually plan for anything going forward. And I found in my role actually that I think when you say advanced care planning, people tend to shy back a little bit, because what they are thinking about is, death, don't want to be talking about that. But actually, Harriet, you're so right, because it's not about that, it's the stage before that. You know, what if you just become really, really ill and you can't express your wishes? You know, it's important that people know what it is that you want, where you want to be, and so on and so forth. So we have to make sure that everyone's talking about it, really. So lovely. Anything else, ladies, before we say our goodbyes?
I'd just like to say, obviously on behalf of Marie Curie, one of the things also this helps with is that when our companions go out or talk to the people, they can also identify other services that Marie Curie can provide to support them. So it's really good that it's not just about, obviously advanced care plan, but it's around, what's that part of it? It's around what other things can Marie Curie do to actually support you, which is, that's the other thing. And it does fit in with what Marie Curie is talking about, basically, and promoting. It is having those conversations, as you so rightly said, around death and dying and normalizing it all. And I just wanted to say, I remember I went to a festival of death and dying, never been to one in my life, is a strange terminology, before. And my mum was with me, staying with me. I said, "Do you want to come, Mum?" She said, "Oh yeah, okay." So she came. I had a stall with all things about Marie Curie, and there was funeral directors and all sorts of death doulas and all sorts of things going on. And she quite enjoyed it. and there was a death cafe, and then one of the undertakers had a wicker casket there, and I said, would you like one of those? You know, we don't talk about what you would like. And she went, yeah, I think I would like a wicker casket. And from that came we spoke about, you know, what she wanted, and actually she's now done an advanced care plan. So it's like you say, it's normalizing it all, really. And Harriet knows this, but we were supporting a gentleman who then said, oh, my wife would also like a care plan, and that's happened twice now. So it's almost like two for the price of one. So it's the word spreads, and you know, then eventually, hopefully, we'll get to the place where we are talking about death and dying in the same way as we're celebrating birth. So, you know,
Yes.
yeah, but the last thing I just wanted to say was, if anybody would like to volunteer for us and do this project, we are looking to recruit more companion volunteers. So please just get in touch by using the same number. So we'd be
fantastic. Grateful. Yes, yeah. I mean, I urge anybody, if anybody's got some free time, volunteering for anybody is a fantastic opportunity and fulfilling role, but particularly for a service like yours. Yeah, fantastic. So if anyone would like to do that, the number is on the screen. It's also in the comments, or just pop a message, pop a comment on there, and we can put you in touch with Sandy directly. Anybody that's watching this on catch up, because not everyone watches it live, as I said, put a comment in and we will get back to you. So ladies, thank you so much for joining me today and talking about it's a delicate but a really, really important subject, and let's do our best between the three of us to get everyone talking about it and moving forward. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone that's watching, and that's goodbye from us. So goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.